Yes, go. Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the pod. Matt Kim, Peter Saddington.
I thought you were going to say Peter Sanchez.
We got Sanchez and Matt here today. Good morning, everyone. Hope everyone is having a blessed day.
Not wrong. I just entered into America through the border. I like the fact that they're giving me more money than the welfare people.
Bruh. If you are listening and not watching, Peter is rocking the mustache today, and it doesn't really fill out exactly, but it's kind of there.
It's just a bunch of pubes, bro.
It's better than me. I can't grow a mustache, so
I told my wife that since I'm in my 40s, I've never grown out my mustache. So I don't know where all the hair is. So this is an experiment in my 40s of where do I grow all these like pubic hairs all over the place? And it's scruffy, it's uneven, it's a complete nightmare for those who can't see us on video.
I grow right up top and just on the bottom, but it doesn't connect.
I
get like this Fu Manchu going.
So I don't think mine connects either. So we're gonna see what happens after I grow it out for another couple weeks.
How long are you gonna let it go?
I don't know. My wife won't kiss me anymore, so we're bumping up against constraints right now.
So I had an amazing weekend. I took my family. We spent 4 or 5 days in Hilton Head. It's amazing there.
I love Hilton Head. It's a great place.
It was my first time there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was my first time.
I thought you've gone to Hilton Head. Me and my wife have gone there multiple times. It's a great place.
We stayed at one of these kind of resort condo places. It looks like, I think it's a timeshare because the people at the front desk kept on saying, "Hey, there's free gift. Come here and talk to us."
They want to get you to sign up for the other empty condo next door.
Yeah, but it was right off the beach, and we were able to walk there. And my daughter, she was running up and down the beach. She was playing with the waves. She was not building sandcastles. I was building sandcastles. She was Godzillaing them, and people were enamored by her. The amount of people that were sitting there, and I love that my daughter really likes to wave at people, says hi, and smiles at them, and people just melt. And I can feel it. She gives people love, and in return, regardless of how they feel, they give her love back. I feel like it brings out the best in people.
Isn't it fascinating, Matt, how babies make everything new?
Yeah, amazing.
It's really good. Like we're in this office, for example, and we've acclimated to this environment here. But you bring a baby in, the baby will stare at this wall forever, and it'll make you look at the wall in a new light. Like why is she so interested in this wall? And you begin to see things in a new light. And so I think one of the powerful things about having children is they reinvigorate that which is dull to us adults and bring a new perspective to it. So I love the fact that you're kind of at a kind of meta level looking at your daughter and seeing how she's influencing and being able to almost transform the world by transforming people around her to positive stuff.
It was amazing. Amazing time. So grateful. And the people of Hilton Head were so fantastic, so great, so open, accepting, laid back. Nothing but great things to say about that area.
It's a wonderful place, except if you go to certain areas, you can't conceal carry, even though there's reciprocity.
Okay, well, yeah. Okay.
I have a story behind that. Last time I was at Hilton Head, I always carry my weapon, and for some reason, I guess it was just showing out of my waist area, and I had these Karens just like come up to me, and they're like, "Oh man," and then they called the police on me, and they're like, "Oh, this." I guess colored person is walking around with a gun, and I just had a good conversation with the cops because the cops were just like, "Look, there is reciprocity. You're from Georgia. They checked everything out, but at the same time, it was like, why can't I carry here? I need to be safe, especially in today's world."
Family environment. I can understand why Karen was mad.
True, you can understand that.
Yeah.
One of the things that whenever I go to Hilton Head, you pass all the car dealerships.
Yes.
Right, and every time I go there, I always think like the only cars I'm going to see in Hilton Head are all the Fords and the Toyotas and all the car dealerships that you pass, but you end up just seeing Mercedes everywhere.
It was a lot of minivans.
Oh, that's true too.
A lot of minivans. So interesting thing happened over the last couple days.
Yes.
And I don't usually fanboy very much. I don't get really excited when I meet famous people, and I haven't met them. But I usually don't get overly excited when I meet famous people. It's just not in my character. So if I'm around even an A-list celebrity, I'm not the guy that's going to ask for an autograph. It's just, okay, look, there's Leonardo DiCaprio, awesome, cool.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I just don't feel like I put people on pedestals. And I don't get overly excited, and I don't want to impede on their personal space. So it's not something I've ever done. I've had the opportunity to be in the same room or around a lot of extremely famous people. I don't think I've ever asked for a selfie in my life.
Really?
Never.
Really?
Never.
Wow. I'm the type of guy, because I fly all the time. We were just talking about that earlier. And whenever I see a celebrity in the airport, no shame. Like, I'll go up to that celebrity and be like, hey, can we take a selfie? I'm that type of dude, but you're not?
No. And I've sat there and I've had conversations at airport in the lounges with people that I would consider extremely famous. And I've never once asked for their information or their picture or anything. It's just, it was cool that we got to share a moment. We had a quick conversation about whatever it is, and I move on.
Really? You don't ever feel the need to document it and be able to show your homies that you were hanging out with Bill Murray in the airport at JFK one random time?
No, I don't know. It just never occurred to me to even try, to even think about it. It just doesn't cross my mind. But someone on Twitter started following me the other day, and this one I was like, oh.
You should see that face.
Oh. It was a big one.
It's very Korean.
Oh. There are a short list of men that are on the internet that I would consider people that have significantly impacted my own personal life. Regardless of how you feel about them personally or what you think they've done, I judge people by how they affected me. And they've had significant impact on my life. And one of those people is Andrew Tate.
Which is so fascinating. We're going to unpack this clearly, but which is so fascinating because the world in many ways sees Andrew Tate as a misogynist, as a terrible human being, terrible to women, anti-establishment, very much against the natural grain of the kind of mainstream media narrative. And so fascinating that he is one of the people because I mean, and because some people, I think they try to paint him as very shallow. But I don't think you see him as that.
I judge people by how they impact my life. And I found him online. I think we've shared the clip in a previous podcast before. The first interview I ever seen him was on Your Mama's House. And I thought that was hilarious. I thought he was really interesting and funny and engaging. And I found him before the cancellation.
Before he kind of really blew up too.
Correct. So just because the media mob comes and says, oh, we don't like this guy now, I don't think that changes my mind on somebody. I made my mind up on what I felt about a person before that. I'm not going to let the media change how I think, feel, or perceive.
And I remember us reviewing that clip in a previous podcast. Maybe we can highlight that link below or something like that. But I remember you talking about how you appreciated how natural he was. And kind of, since he hadn't blown up yet, it's not that he'd changed his tune or changed his persona, but he was certainly a little bit more lighthearted, I guess, back before the fame, I guess, yeah?
I find him extremely versatile, which I think is very difficult to do online these days. When he live streams and he knows that his audience is mostly young men during the live stream, he's very brash, open, aggressive, and I can see why young guys like that. And then I saw him on Tucker the other day, and he was very reserved, calm, composed, almost statement-like.
And
Statesman-like.
he did clean up. His beard was all cleaned up.
Correct. Very clean shaved because he knew his audience.
Yeah.
And being able to adapt yourself to various audiences, I think that's a talent that people sometimes take for granted. Being able to be versatile.
So he's kind of like a modern day Apostle Paul who said that he can become all things to all men so that he can reach all men. Is that what Andrew Tate's being? He's being the current Apostle Paul so he can reach all men and change his appearance and countenance and cadence to his communication. Do you think that's what he is? Is he a prophet of the age?
I don't know about prophet, but I do know that a lot of people, when they go on different platforms, they almost seem like they are faking their way into being somebody else for that specific audience. For him, it seemed very natural.
Ooh, I can already see kind of an alignment here. So one of the things that you appreciated about Andrew Tate is very similar to what we're doing here, which is being authentic and natural. But let's go straight to the point. How has Andrew Tate influenced or changed your life to the better?
I think he was one of the first people that I saw post-COVID that was really calling out all the bullshit in a very unapologetic, brass manner. And he did it at a time where you are not allowed to do it. And there was something about what he said, just calling it all out, calling the bullshit on the media, calling the bullshit on the pandemic, and not just calling it out, but living it. I thought that was interesting. I was like, whoa, like people actually do this.
So if I could categorize what you're essentially saying that he was brave at a time where it was hard to be brave.
Correct. And I want to say he may be the first to do it.
In a lot of ways, there was a lot less known during that time. So he had a lot more to lose. Imagine if he went as hard as he did back then, and it turns out that the vaccine was effective and the vaccine was good and that it isn't killing people, and he was completely wrong. Then he would have completely lost out on the kind of the truth of the matter, and people would be like, "You're full of bullshit. You're spewing, the sky is falling, Chicken Little," and when nothing came of it. But turns out he was essentially correct on everything that he said.
Yeah, and he also made a point to say, "Men, get off your ass. Do difficult things. Embrace the pain, embrace the suffering, and you need to go through that to better your own life."
And let me create some breadcrumbs here. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but we've talked about this before. In many ways, this podcast, the Matt Kim podcast that we're on right now, is an outcome. It's an outcause of how he's affected you. Is that fair?
That is 100% true. I do not believe at all that if I had not found him online, I would have had the motivation nor the balls to go out and put my ideas out there into the universe also.
That's really powerful. Really powerful. So you're saying Andrew Tate is I don't want to put words in your mouth. You correct me. But you're saying that Andrew Tate gave you the courage to speak your truth on a medium like this.
100%. Seeing another man do it and do it unapologetically and doing it what seems genuine to him felt like I could do it too. And sometimes that's all we need. Not many people want to be the first to jump in the ocean. But you see one guy do it, and you're like, oh, he didn't die, did he?
And the water's not that cold.
Yeah, like it's not that far down there. You can survive. Being that first to jump off the cliff is the hardest. And to me, he was the first guy that jumped off that cliff.
So I'm going to give you a little bit more credit, maybe where credit's due, but it is what it is. I never saw you, Matt, having known you as long as I have, as someone who needs an Andrew Tate in their life. And so this is not a disparagement on Andrew Tate. This is not I'm not disparaging you as an entrepreneur and operator and successful businessman. But you've done a lot of things as an operator, entrepreneur, that you didn't need Andrew Tate for. You went off on your own. I don't want to tell your story, but to build the company that we're in right now, you went off to China on your own. You learned the game. You learned the market. You learned the demographics. You learned how to sell. You learned how to do vendor management, supply chain management. You learned all these things on your own without an Andrew Tate. So for me to sit here and hear you say, Andrew Tate was the reason, maybe giving him a lot of credit here, but the reason why I had enough courage to do this podcast, I feel like you already had all of that. So unpack that a little bit more. What was it about Andrew Tate and the timing maybe that gave you enough, I'm going to use the word courage, to do something like this?
I think going off on your own and trying to build a successful business it's what most men do, right? If you don't want to work in the system and you don't want to work for somebody else, you start your own business. We've been normalized to it. So we don't think that's being brave and courageous. But to put your ideas out there and let people basically break them apart, judge them, and it's a weird vulnerability that there is. And you're like, fuck, what if I say something, everyone thinks I'm a joke?
Yeah.
That kind of is in the back of your mind, especially the first time you do it.
Not wrong.
And seeing him give his opinions and his views, and he puts it together very well, and to see the reaction from it, that there are people out there that agree. And I'm listening to some of the stuff that he says, and I don't agree with 100% of what he says. I don't think you have to agree with everything. For him to put his ideas out there, and some of them are extremely controversial, And for him to do it unapologetically and to see the response to it, I'm like, shit, maybe I could do it too. And, for a long time, I thought this type of medium was for people that already had influence, that were already famous, that were politicians or were somebody. And I'm thinking, yeah, like I have my business and that's great and all, but it's just us in the corner of Georgia. Like no one knows who we are. And to think and to give us the feeling and empowerment that we can put our message out there too, I think that's what I'm most grateful of.
I see the difference. As a man, if you don't want to work for the system, you don't want to work for the man, and you want to build your own company, you can build your own company in isolation. And you can fail on your own. And you can have very limited repercussions socially in terms of impacting your life or people saying, oh, you tried that business, you failed. You can do that with relatively not a whole lot of, let's just say, flack or feedback. Now I see the difference. Going out and speaking your truth out to the masses like we are, because now we've reached hundreds of millions of people.
Yeah.
Certainly, you could get a lot more flack, right? You can get a lot more flack. You can get a lot more, just negative commentary, negative opinions about you. Obviously, they could attack your family, these types of things. So now I see the difference now. There's bravery and there's courage in rolling your own, building your own business. But to go out and actually give your opinions on the internet, that could be a scary place.
Starting a business and failing for people, any entrepreneur, any businessman, it's almost a badge of honor.
It's almost table stakes.
Right,
Like,
yeah.
accept it. It's going to happen.
You're going to fail. You need to fail to succeed.
Say less. You got it.
To put your ideas out into the world, there's no room for failure. Because once they're like, oh, this guy's an idiot, that's it. You're an idiot for life. And that's the scary part because there's very little room for error there.
So which one of us is the idiot?
We're both idiots.
I'm trying to figure it out. Like, is Matt the sophisticated one? I'm the idiot.
I think we're both idiots.
Okay. I wouldn't disagree with you. I think we're both idiots too.
But I think that was why, I respect what he's done. And people need to be able to separate the ideas and the impact from the man.
Yeah, you could almost say that you should remove the message from the model, right? Because I think, if anything, you've really gravitated and latched on to his model, which is forget the content, forget the narrative. The model is that he was willing to go out there, and literally he's been jailed for, it's crazy to think about it in today's world, but he's literally been jailed for speaking his opinion.
Which is crazy.
Just let's sit on that for a second. How crazy do we live in a world right now where you could go online, record your voice, your opinion, and you could go to jail for it?
And if he survives this,
Which he will.
it will be more social proof that what we're doing is possible and viable. And maybe that's why they don't want him to succeed.
Ooh, I'm getting some tinglies up my spine. I feel like these are the types of comments that are prepping us for moonshot. This Matt Kim podcast is ready to go. Now that we've been followed by Mr. Cobra Tate.
Which is crazy. And I don't know him at all. I've never met him. We've never had a communication, not even a DM, nothing.
But he's retweeting your shit now.
Which is amazing. Because he has a huge audience. And just to be a part of the universe, I'm grateful. Hopefully one day he'll be excited to be a part of our universe.
Oh, maybe we should do an outreach thing for Mr. Cobra Tate and see if he can tweet us a little bit more. Or, it'd be amazing to have him come on the Matt Kim podcast.
I mean, it would be amazing. I don't think, and people are like, hey, he follows you now. You should totally get him on your pod. I'm like, that would be amazing. However, I don't think it's something that I'm going to actively try to do. If it happens, it happens. I don't want anything to feel manufactured. I don't want to do it just because we want the auxiliary clout. If there's an honest conversation to be had, I'm always open and willing and would appreciate it. If we have to force something just for clicks and views, that's just not what I do.
I like the fact that there's a nice like yin and yang between you and me, man. Because sometimes you give me heartburn with the shit you say. It's like, a really famous guy reached out to me, is now following me, and I don't want to take advantage of this opportunity whatsoever, Peter. It's like, oh, motherfucker, what? At least, have you DM'd him?
No.
should at least DM be like, hey, bro.
If it happens, it happens. If we find a issue or a topic or something that we kind of both connect on, then we will organically connect with one another. But to be like, hey man, thanks for following me, bro. Like, that's just not what I do. You know, it's like, I don't ask for autographs. Remember, I'm not that guy.
I just spit my water out. Okay, so Andrew Tate has affected your life in a powerful way. What we have today in this podcast is evidence of this,
Yes.
and I'm so happy and appreciative to be a part of it for sure. Let's pull on the string a little bit. What other men, kind of in the internet sphere, have influenced Matt Kim in a positive way?
I think a obvious one would be Joe Rogan.
Ooh.
I love Joe Rogan. I love what he's done. I think he's the one that showed me that this format works, that having honest, open conversations, that asking questions. And a lot of podcasts I watch, they think they're trying to be like Joe Rogan, but they just ask questions and the other person just answers them. I don't think that's what he does. He interjects his own ideas, his own stories into a conversation rather than interview. I think most podcasts go interview.
Yeah, there is definitely a different feel to an interview versus a conversation.
Correct. And Joe Rogan does conversations, which is what I love, which is what I want to do, which is what I want to be a part of, not just, here's my question, give me your answer, next question. We started that way. And to be honest, for me, it was fucking boring. That's not what I like.
Yeah. The constraint to conversations is that you need a good conversation partner. And so Joe Rogan is in a position where he is able to pluck out the great conversations or the great conversationalists that he believes will have great conversations on his podcast. And so I think for any newbie or anyone who wants to create a podcast and have conversations, your network is going to be relatively limited in the beginning, and you're probably not going to have a lot of great people who can really have and unpack conversations of value. And so what makes Joe Rogan really special is he's able to almost always, I don't think I've ever watched a podcast where it was a bad conversation.
No. And I think it's because it's conversation. When you have a conversation, if two men get together and you sit out at dinner or you sit down for a drink or a cup of coffee, you guys exchange stories. You guys exchange ideas on certain topics. It's not, I ask you a question, you answer.
It's not transactional.
Exactly. And I like that his format is conversational. So that's a model that I look towards to, I look forward to, and I try to mimic.
What's really interesting about Joe Rogan is because he's been podcasting for a decade, and because he has conversations, not interviews, we've actually been able to see his opinions, his mental models, his perceptions change over time, which I think a lot of people have given him flack for and said, hey, you used to be pro this, but now you're anti this, or you used to be anti this, now you're pro this. You used to be closed-minded, but now it's like, well, that's kind of the purpose of conversation, is to expand your horizons, expand your mind, and maybe, just maybe, have your opinion changed. Is that okay?
And I think that's fine. I think that's amazing. You take a stance on a topic or an issue, but you leave yourself just a little bit of room to possibly be wrong. And just that little bit of room that helps you see other perspectives, see other vantage points, and maybe you were wrong. And I think that's fine. You know, I think that's how people grow, people learn, and having those and watching him change on certain topics, I love that. It's not a lot of people that are willing to do that, especially politicians. They say, this is my stance, and they're stuck with that stance for 30, 40, 50 years.
And then every time they say something that is the antithesis to that, they get called out.
Exactly. And I think that's so stupid because we as people over the course of 5, 10, 20, 30 years, we change. Our beliefs change. What's important to us changes. The ideas around us that impact our own lives change. And we're able to do that. To think that you have to stay pigeonholed to one exact position for life, I think it's crazy.
I think one of the most recent and most evident changes that have happened in your life, Matt, is the fact that you've had a child.
Correct.
That fundamentally changes your priorities and your worldviews and the things that you value. Right? Would you agree?
I agree 100%. I mean, before her, I think I was more...
You were naive, ignoramus, man.
I just didn't care as much.
Well, yeah, you don't know what you don't know.
You know, I wanted to live my life, and we were excited to have cool things, and that was all I cared about. And all of a sudden, you have a daughter, and I don't know, maybe if I had a son, it'd be a little bit different. I don't know. Having a daughter, it changed the way I see everything, because now I'm responsible for her. And what can I do to impact and improve her life? And I couldn't stay silent. I couldn't just be like, all right, like life sucks. So like, hopefully she'll figure it out. Like, I didn't want to do that.
It'd be interesting. What would be interesting alternate reality? An alternate universe that would be interesting would be Matt Kim getting influenced by Andrew Tate and Joe Rogan and individuals like this before having kids and having you create a podcast like this. I wonder what your if you would have as much depth to your thinking as you do now.
I mean, I found both of them prior to having a kid, and I used to be like, oh, Joe Rogan is a lot of fun. I'm going to listen to him. Andrew Tate, he has a lot of amazing takes on things. I like his ideas, but that's it. It's content consumption. And after I had my daughter, and I remember always back in, I can hear Andrew Tate's voice sometimes, like, get off your ass. God.
He lives rent free in your head, bro.
Get off your ass. Like, do something difficult. Just because it's difficult doesn't mean you don't try. And I can hear that. And I'm sitting there with my daughter, and I'm like, I need to try. If I want to improve my daughter's life, if I want to improve her environment, if I want to improve society for her, I can't just sit at home and complain.
I love it.
I think that's what it is. It's just, and some people are off-put by his aggressive approach. I get it. And for young men, I think young men like it because that's what they need to hear. Get the fuck off your ass. They need to hear that shit. Sometimes if you're maybe a middle-aged or older woman or man, you're like, I don't really want someone yelling at me. I get that too. And I get why people may not like that approach, but I think it's effective. And again, that just in the back of my mind, get off your ass. Get off your ass. What are you doing today? Get off your ass. How many hours you work today? Are you doing difficult things? I'm like, I'm not today. I need to do it. And, especially when my daughter was there and she was really young and I'm like, oh, I'm tired. Maybe I don't need to work today. Maybe I'm just going to help with the baby. And then, oh, I'm feeling a little tired. I don't know what to do. I'm feeling tired. Having babies, you always feel tired.
Yeah, no doubt.
And I can always hear it. So what?
Exactly.
So what? So what if you're tired? The world doesn't care that you're tired. The world doesn't care that you're sad. The world doesn't care that you have your own problems. You need to perform anyway.
Bro, absolutely. One of the things that I tell my wife when I've had a long day of working hard is I always tell her, and I know this to be true, and I bet you'll agree with me, is I always tell her, I say, I never remember how hard I worked the previous day. Like, you never remember. Like, you go to bed, you're tired as fuck, you wake up the next day, and frankly, the last thing on your mind is how hard you worked the previous day. And so that, for me, is the kind of the narrative in my head where you have, get up, get your ass going, kind of Andrew Tate. For me, it's I'm okay with grinding my ass, grinding my gears, working ridiculously hard today because the reality is tomorrow I'll never remember how hard I really worked. And it's all additive at the end of the day. Let me ask you two final questions for these two guys, and then I want to roll on because I think you probably have more than these two guys that are influenced your life. But the two questions I want to ask for both of these guys is, number one, what does Andrew Tate need to do now? What's the next steps for him?
I think he's doing it. I think trying to get to a wider, broader audience by being more clear in his thoughts, I think is what he's trying to do. He's going... By him doing a 1.5, 2 hour interview with Tucker Carlson, I think that was him going almost mainstream.
He did seem like he just kind of crept through the threshold a little bit. Like he's now at a different level. It's hard to put your finger on it, but it's like you look and feel and sound like you're at a newer level. Is that fair?
I mean, he went from the guy on the corner of the internet that almost had a cult-like following to all of a sudden have the mass eyes on him. And yes, he was the most Googled man on earth last year, but being Googled versus having someone like Tucker give you like his full time.
Yeah.
I think it did like 35 million views in like 12 hours.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Amazing.
I think that takes him to the next level. And now who knows what he's going to do next.
I wonder if he's going to end up being like a Gary Cardone or Grant Cardone type of guy, or like
I think
a
he's
Gary
bigger
V.
than Grant Cardone and Gary Vee.
Wait, what I mean is they start creating these really substantive like business models and like not kind of like MLM, multi-level marketing pyramid scheme bullshit, but it almost like he can get to a level where he can start building these types of funds and these types of entities. So let's go to the next one. So Joe Rogan, he's been doing the same bloody format for 10 plus years. Where does he need to go next?
Well, I wish he would let me into his studio, because not to record, just so that I can improve his lighting just a little bit.
Right? Joe Rogan, if you're out there, we have a lighting expert in the house at Matt Kim Podcast. He can help you out, bro.
Like, Joe, you have unlimited money and unlimited access to resources. You can make your studio just like a little bit better, and it would cost you like $1,000.
Joe,
you know what I'm saying? Like, I love his studio. I love the way it's set up, but like everyone watches video.
Yeah.
Let's just spend like extra like $1,000, $1,000.
And I'm gonna volunteer. Joe Rogan, if you're out there and you're listening, Matt Kim is volunteering to supply you with this lighting consultation and the materials for free. He'll fly out to Austin, Texas, and do it for you.
But I think it's really cool that it's him and it's Jamie. And it's so cool that we all know who Jamie is.
Yeah.
He's the producer, sound engineer, video. He's our Will.
What's up, Will?
And his podcast is so big that his sound engineer is just as famous. I think that's cool. And he's very respectful to him. I like that Jamie chimes in from time to time, that he has a voice in it too. I think that's an interesting dynamic. It almost reminds me of Howard Stern and Robin.
They are a dynamic duo.
Yeah. And I thought she was fantastic for him also.
Oh, she was the right positive banter and balance to him, for sure.
And regardless of what you think about Howard Stern, I listened to a lot of Howard Stern growing up. And
gosh, he was the most vulgar. He still is vulgar, but
he went a little woke.
He went a little woke. He
cock sellout,
Yeah.
blah blah. So not the biggest fan of him now, but I can appreciate the impact he's had. I listened to a lot of talk radio growing up. It was just a big part of my life. So Howard Stern is just one of those guys that can I find him on the radio somewhere?
Do you ever listen to Neil Bortz in the morning here in Atlanta?
I'm not from Atlanta.
Oh, that's right. So I used to listen to Neil Bortz. He still has a radio show. It's not syndicated anymore, but he was kind of the tip of the spear back in the 2008 to 2000, maybe even earlier, 2004 to 2012 period. He would be speaking kind of against the grain. So for any of you guys who are Atlanta natives, any of you guys who love Neil Bortz, I was a big Neil Bortz fan back in the day. But let's go to the next idea. So you have Joe Rogan, you have Andrew Tate who's recently following you, which means Joe Rogan, you're next in line. You need to follow Matt Kim Podcast, smash the like button, subscribe, check out the Discord links below. Who else has influenced you in the internet sphere? Who has influenced you for the positive?
So an interesting one that is probably the most polarizing, and I don't know if he's an internet personality or a global celebrity. I don't know what to call him, but Donald Trump.
Oh.
And I was a fan of Donald Trump since I was young. So I played the Donald Trump board game.
Oh,
there was
bro.
a board game
I remember that.
where you were a real estate mogul and you would play the board and you would take over and build your own empire. I love that game when I was young.
I bet they still have it out there.
I'm sure you could find a copy. The first business-related book I ever read was The Art of the Deal.
Art of the Deal.
And if you ask a lot of entrepreneurs of books that they've read that have impact, a lot of people will say Art of the Deal is on that list.
I've read it.
I remember going to a friend's house who was in Trump Plaza in New York City thinking, bro, this is awesome. I can't believe this guy built this whole place and he owns all of it. I had a friend who, during Apprentice, had his office within one of the towers in Wall Street, the Trump Wall Street building. And they would pay rent to Trump, and the building was amazing. I remember going visiting, going, wow, I can't believe this is like a real office building. I can't believe you work here. I watched almost all of The Apprentices. I thought, yeah, I love that show. I thought that it was interesting because it was a show that had different business ideas. Before that, it didn't exist. You didn't get to watch business related TV.
Was The Apprentice pre Shark Tank?
Yes.
So it was kind of the precursor to Shark Tank then.
Correct. And Shark Tank was more about pitching your own businesses and starting new business. But Apprentice was more about like different roles and managements of a business. So I was exposed to, if you didn't grow up around a lot of business, this was an easy way to get exposed to different business concepts in real time using real applications.
Right.
Yes, it's TV, I get it. But as a young man, you get to be exposed to all these different things. And it's not like successful business people were like bringing you into their own business in real life and being, oh, let me show you how it works. There was no way. You either read a book or that was it.
Or you either read a book or just huffed it your own and failed most of the way through.
Correct. For the first time, there was someone out there talking about different concepts and giving you just a little bit of exposure so that if you're ever in a situation, at least you have a little bit of reference.
You're not the first person who's told me that, is that The Apprentice was a kind of bird's eye view into kind of the mechanics of how a business runs. And yeah, there's a lot of hyperbole because it's TV.
It's TV.
But at the end of the day, you did get a good covering of here's marketing, here's operations, here's human resources, here's what happens in sales when you fuck up, right? And Donald Trump covered a lot of that. Now, I probably watched a total of maybe 4 episodes out of all of them, so I don't have a good swath of what actually went on. But the episodes I did watch was really intriguing because he would go into actually some of the nitty gritty around these particular roles, obviously for the purpose of ripping them a new asshole and telling them that they suck and they're terrible at it. But what was curious to me is like the depth in which they went into some of these areas of business, which was like, hey, that's cool. That's a cool silhouette. If I wasn't in business myself, I would never know that this transpired. I never knew that this kind of happens in these types of businesses. So it was a cool kind of window view into his world at the macro level.
And I thought it was interesting to see the dynamic of people. So, for example, if they did an episode where you have to promote a ice cream shop and everyone's standing at the ice cream shop and there's 2 teams and whichever team generates the most revenue wins. And you see different ideas on how to generate revenue. One guy is like, okay, we're going to start a sign and get people to come in. And then the other team's like, well, let's create music. Let's create an environment. Let's make an experience. And you're like, all right, I can see why certain things are better. Exactly. And you get to see it happen in real time. Again, it's TV. I get it. But to be exposed to these new ideas as a young man, I thought it was interesting. It gave me the ability to think outside the box and let me know that these concepts even existed.
Would you say that Donald Trump and your following of Donald Trump and your learning from kind of, being kind of peripherally exposed and watching his shows, et cetera, reading his books, reading his content, seeing his content, do you think that helped you build the business that you have today?
Yeah, I think a lot of the concepts that you learn in life, you model off people that you follow. And to get that initial exposure from someone that's been extremely successful, I thought that was really cool. And that made a big impact on what I did.
So Donald Trump as a businessman, you deeply respect. Now, you don't have to agree with all his politics. Now, he's kind of getting harder to nail to the wall with his politics these days because things seem to be getting diluted and things seem to be getting watered down. So it's kind of hard to figure out where he really stands these days. But would you say that Donald Trump at the end all be all was pretty important to your kind of your business acumen and your business maturity?
I mean, he proved the idea of branding matters. It's Trump everything.
It's true.
And somehow his name is probably the most valuable name in the world. You can literally put that on anything and all of a sudden that business goes from 0 to 100 million.
I mean,
just by having a name on there.
I've been to the Trump Soul Hotel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's nice.
It's nice. He just put his name on it.
Yeah.
But the fact that his name is on it changes everything.
Yeah.
It's fascinating how powerful a name and brand can be.
And there's this idea that I don't like him politically. For me, I liked him before politics just because, and I like a lot of his politics. Maybe some of it I don't agree with, and maybe he is brash. But there seems to be a theme here that all powerful, successful men tend to be a little brash.
Against the grain.
I think that's just part of the territory. But I liked him before. I'm not going to all of a sudden not like him because the media mob says you can't like him anymore. It's stupid.
Yeah.
I think for myself, make my own decisions. And my experience with him and what I've learned is valuable.
You know what's interesting? If we look at the pattern of just these three individuals, right? We have Joe Rogan, we have Donald Trump, and we have Andrew Tate. The whole model of communication is relatively brash. And maybe if you take Joe Rogan out of the equation because he's more of a conversationalist, but he can get pretty wild.
Yep.
What's interesting is that these personalities are, in many ways, larger than life personalities. But you don't have that affliction. You're not a larger than life personality. No. You're a reachable, teachable, humble, down to earth, just regular Joe Asian kind of guy, right? And so it's fascinating to me that these are the models that you appreciate the most out there in the world and have influenced your life, your personal life, your family life, and your business life. But yet you do not emulate any of those hallmarks of a brash communicator. Why is that? Why is it that someone like yourself is attracted to these types of individuals?
I don't think it's communication style that I'm overly attracted to. I like ideas, and maybe I do want someone that's a little more brash in my face. Maybe that's just what I need. I don't know. I've never thought about that. That's an interesting concept.
What do you mean when you say you need someone brash in your face? What does that mean? You need someone yelling at you all the time?
Maybe you do. I didn't go to the military. Did you?
No.
There is something about men that have been through the military that are different than men that have not been.
Oh, by far.
They are more organized. They are more disciplined. They are more concise in their ideas and their words. They're just more polished. And not having that of someone kind of yelling at me, maybe that's why I felt a little unpolished growing up. And maybe that's why I'm attracted to people that are a little more in my face.
It's almost kind of masochistic.
Maybe.
It's like, I didn't get beaten as a child, and as an adult, I appreciate it now.
Beat me.
Beat me, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, massa.
Maybe that's what it is. You know, I know that later in life, I was like, man, if I had an opportunity to go back and redo my life, I would have joined the military.
Really?
I would have.
Really?
I think it's good. I think it's amazing that in certain countries, especially Korea, that you have to do it.
Mandatory service.
Yeah. I don't think it's a bad thing because almost every military man I've ever met, I would say I consider them higher value, just in general.
For sure.
In business, in life, in ideas, in everything they do.
It's interesting you say that because I have been caught saying publicly before, and I'll stand by these words, is that in today's world, I think most young men should go to the military. And I mostly base this off of my experience with Korea and their mandatory service because I became a citizen of America, which maybe we'll talk about someday. But one of the reasons why is because I didn't want to go back to Korea and then have to be forcibly enlisted to the military for 2.5 years. But to resonate and to repeat kind of what you've said here, I agree. I think the military creates a discipline, it creates a consistency, it creates a maturity in a man, and frankly, that I think is valuable. Now, some people would say, well, going into the military makes you malleable, it makes you complacent, or it makes you, bend the knee to authority. I don't know if that's necessarily true. I would say if I were to take everything that happens in the military into one key idea, it would be simply this. These men have decided to commit to something and do it for a significant amount of time. Most men today can't commit to anything and do it for more than 3 months. And they're like, oh, I'm not seeing results, I quit. Military, you can't quit. Well, you can, but you understand my point, is you have to finish out your tour. You have to finish out your time of duty. That in and of itself tells me that you're more mature than most men because you actually finished the fucking program. You know what I'm saying?
They are taught to be selfless and disciplined. And I think these are two key characteristics that all men should have. Selfless and disciplined. You can't go wrong if you have two of those things, and integrity and etc. But I think those are two important ones. And I think that's what the military teaches people. You know, when we talk about the video clips of men who stand there and watch people get beat in the street.
Bro.
and there's always guys with their cameras out. We talk about this guy all the time. The one guy that said, "Fuck it, I'm gonna step in there," and we had the whole Jordan Neely thing. You know, former Marine, you know, former military. He was like, "I can't stand and watch this happen. I'm gonna do something." He didn't have to.
Yep.
And he got persecuted for it. He is considered public enemy number 1 for stepping in and trying to help everyone else.
Crazy how he's vilified.
Which is unfair because this guy did what he thought was best for the safety of the women and children around.
And now we see even more videos of people just hitting each other and smacking each other and punching each other on subways, and people in the comments are like, "Where's Mr. Neely? Where's one of these guys at?" And the reality is people are realizing, and thanks to mainstream media, it might not be worth the calculus to get involved, because all it takes is that one guy to record you stepping in, and then now suddenly you're public enemy number 1.
Yeah. I think it's funny because the other night when I was with my wife and my child and we were in Hilton Head, and it was late at night, and she wanted to go on a walk on the beach, and it was late at night, and I was like, "Oh, I'm tired. We've been kind of with the baby. We've been out all day. We've been in the sun. I'm beat." And she was like, "Oh, really? You're gonna make excuses?
Damn,
Your
girl.
responsibility is not only to be a father, but to be my husband."
Damn.
And we spent time with the kid. I spent time with your parents, and they're there, and my parents are there to watch the baby at night. You can give me 15 minutes to go walk on the beach. You can be tired later. And I was like, "You're right."
Damn, Taylor.
Yeah, I'm like, "You're right.
Dude, I like you more now.
You're right. You know, you're absolutely right. You know, hold me accountable.
Yeah.
Don't let me make excuses and say and not do my duty as a father, as a man, as a husband because I feel tired." And she called me on it immediately.
I love that.
Yeah, she's like, "You can be tired tomorrow."
Did you have good sexy time after that?
No, I went home and passed out.
Come on, man. Those are the moments where you're like, "Damn, girl, you all hot to trot right now, man. Getting all up in my shit about this."
But we weren't out there long. We spent 15 or 20 minutes, and we enjoyed the nice weather, and it was great, you know. But she had to call me out, and she was right. You know, don't let your tiredness affect your responsibilities of what you're supposed to do. She's like, you know, she's going to Korea in like 2 months. She's like, "You can rest in 2 months." I was like, "Great, I can rest in 2 months." She's like, "Yeah. What are you gonna do? You're gonna cry about it?" I was like, "You're right. You're right. You're right."
Because you're gonna miss them.
Of course,
You're
I'm
gonna
gonna
miss them
them.
deeply. That's
Yeah.
what. Whenever my kids and my wife go out on vacation, I miss them ridiculous. So let's talk about the next. So you got 3 people that have influenced your life. Who else has influenced Matt Kim's life in the positive?
Well, Tucker Carlson.
Ah,
I think.
really?
Yeah, I love
Really?
Tucker.
Have you been watching him that long?
I've been watching him probably religiously since COVID. I watch his monologue. Even if I don't get a chance to watch the whole show,
You'll watch his monologue.
I'll watch the monologue. I don't ever miss a monologue. I thought it was interesting that he's able to take a few ideas, concepts, and news and kind of give his opinion and commentary on the world on a daily basis. I think that's what I model my 90-second daily clip on Instagram off of. Just to take one idea, present a couple facts, and then interject your opinion onto a matter. Try to be open-minded, try to be rational, try to be logical, but at the same time, it's my opinion.
Well,
These are my perspectives.
yeah.
I will never say that it's not. I'm not being fair at all.
I think Tucker said he's dyslexic. So for him, it requires him to write his thoughts down, his ideas down on paper or on type or text or whatever. And then he can really kind of understand it and then communicate it. And I know that this is something that you're doing as well. So you're writing out your scripts for your 60, 90 second, reels and whatnot. And what I really love is I know from being part of this, the personalization of that. You're not just riffing. You're not just turning on the camera and riffing. You've actually written it out.
Correct.
You've actually considered and thought about this stuff, which for everyone out there that listens and watches, Matt's stuff on Twitter or Instagram or TikTok, just know that there's real thought that goes behind this. And there's an actual script that Matt has taken time to write down and go through and edit and concern himself with before he actually communicates it. So I think it's important to understand those nuances to what you do on those clips.
Yeah, I mean, I choose each word very carefully, not because I want to give an agenda, because number one, you got to be concerned. What if I say something that's too brash or over the line and they take it down and then I'm blocked forever? Something you have to consider. You know, a lot of people always mention, Matt, I can't believe you said that. Like, no, I'm very careful on the exact words I chose. They can't cancel me for this. And if they do, it's bullshit, because I'm very particular about the words I use to describe situations. And I leave a lot of it for question, right? Let people come to their own assumption. Let people kind of decide how they want to read a certain situation. But I'm not going to be the one that says 81 million votes.
Right? You're not busting out a Roseanne Barr.
Correct.
Which, by the way, I loved her recent interview.
Yes.
She was just outstanding.
Yeah.
She said some outlandish things, which I loved. By the
And
way.
I can see why they canceled.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
I don't agree with the canceling, but I can see why they did.
You know, so Tucker Carlson, you must really be enjoying kind of his trajectory right now, because he's gone off on his own. He's got fired or whatever it is from Fox or whatever that snafu is. I think he's still getting paid or something like that. They're trying to censor him, but he's able to go off on his own. Now he's got Twitter and he's able to really communicate his message to the masses, the true mass. He's like been unleashed. And so you must be enjoying kind of this growth of Tucker Carlson. I would expect that you're thinking about similar models from the Matt Kim podcast as well, yeah?
Yeah,
Kind of blowing up into the atmosphere.
I think watching what he did on Twitter, which is he went out there and he just took out the whole news show.
He did.
And all he did was his monologue, which is, again, what I watch. And he does a 7 to 11 minute thing on his Twitter, no production, nothing. It's just him, his ideas, and his words. Yeah. And when I watch him do it maybe 2 or 3 times, like, man, I could do that.
Totally.
I like that.
Totally.
So that's what I did. I went on to Instagram because that's where I felt like I had the biggest platform. And I'm just doing what he's doing, just in a smaller form, more condensed. I don't have the time to write out 10 or 11 minutes. I just don't. But I can do like 60 or 90 seconds, just one idea, 3 or 4 times a week. And the response from that has been fantastic. Yeah. So proving that, number one, that his model works. Number two, it's also taking a little bit of what Andrew Tate does, which is you throw your idea out there, you don't add too much to it, and you let the rest of the world repurpose your content. People are like, how come you don't have any branding on there? I want people to share it. How come you don't have any bureau like all these other people do? I want to leave other people an opportunity to do it if they want to. How come you don't have these fast-moving words like everyone else does? I want people to listen. So I think it's a combination of taking what Joe Rogan does and maybe some of the ideas that Donald Trump has and the ideas that Andrew Tate has and his approach and Tucker's approach and kind of combining it all to make my own approach. And I think it's fine that you take pieces from people that you respect, that you learn from. It's weird that people are like, oh, like you're copying him. Well, maybe a little bit. What's wrong with that? It works. It works. I appreciate it. I like it. So I'm going to take a little bit from this, a little from this, a little bit from this, and create my own version of it. And I think that's what I'm trying to do. Hopefully it comes out that way.
I think everything that you are doing is completely the Matt Kim secret sauce. It's your own rolled sauce. It's your own recipe. It's your own ingredients, and it's working. I think that's important. Now, what would you say to the naysayers, and what would you say to the critics out there who will listen to this podcast and say, Matt Kim, you're an ultra MAGA conservative? Because the only people that clearly you've been influenced by are alt-right, radical, right-wing people like Tucker Carlson and Andrew Tate, and you got Joe Rogan on there, and you got Donald Trump. Like, there's no way that you're open-minded or progressive thinking, Matt Kim, because you're only influenced by alt-right radical thinkers. What would you say to those people who just listened to your list of 4 people who've influenced you?
What is crazy is that none of these 4 people were considered ultra-conservative. None of them were. They were all considered relatively liberal, centered, maybe left-leaning.
Classical liberal in many cases.
Correct. The media told you that they are extreme right, alt-right. But they are traditionally not. It's funny that all of a sudden the media has changed their perspective on what to consider and classify somebody. Prior to the media storm on these 4 gentlemen, I don't think anyone would consider them like extreme right people. Not at all.
I wouldn't have.
It's just now. That's the narrative that's told because being conservative is somehow considered a bad thing.
In many cases, it's unfortunate that we've got to this base idea. But if you disagree with someone, they're alt-right. It's like, like if we disagree, you're alt-right. It's like, how did that happen?
If anything, I would say I'm more conservative than those 4 guys are.
Fair enough. Yeah, I could say that. I could see that.
I think my family values and how I perceive the world is more conservative than probably they are. But yet they're considered alt-right. And for me, people are like, oh, yeah, you're like kind of open-minded. Like, no, I think it's the other way around. I'm probably the conservative crazy one, to be honest.
Yeah.
You know?
So because you're the one. Oh, well, I was going to say something that was probably going to be bleeped out. But anyway, are there anyone else? Is there anyone else? You got 4 men here. Is there a 5th?
There is a 5th. And the 5th, I have an asterisk next to.
Ooh, an asterisk. Okay.
Because I could put him on the wall of gentlemen. I think a lot of people would agree. But I think we just don't know yet because things can change. People change. And this is the one that concerns me the most.
Oh, well, you had my interest. Now I'm engaged.
The person that I feel has changed the world, has changed how I perceive the world, and not just this world, but the entire universe, would be Elon Musk.
Ooh, the Doge Lord himself.
I love what he's done with Tesla. I don't own a Tesla, but the Cybertruck will probably be my next car. I've been on that waiting list since day one.
Did you put the $15, $20 down or whatever it was?
$100. And I did, I think, on day 1.5 or 2.
Ooh.
So I should be in the first year of cars, hopefully. I love what he's doing with SpaceX, going out into the universe. I love the idea of creating a civilization on Mars. I love the idea of him getting involved in Twitter and making it a more freer platform. I love these things about him. I'm also concerned.
Why?
He's garnering too much power, too much information.
You think so?
I mean, he's going to have all the information of people's minds on Twitter.
What makes him different from a Facebook Mark Zuckerberg with Threads and this recent stuff?
He knows where everyone's going and their habits via Tesla. Mm-hmm. He's building infrastructure around cities. He has all the data, with boring. He is creating the new interplanetary movement. Mm-hmm. And he has all this information he's plugging into his own AI, which is going to be a Neuralink and cyborgs.
And connected to Starlink.
And all the satellites.
Yeah.
If you believe he's a good guy, this is all amazing stuff. If you think that every single villain in every sci-fi movie ever seen started as a good guy, garnered all this power, and then all of a sudden one day, one thing happens where they change how they are. Fuck, what if that happened to Elon?
Oh, it's kind of like the Batman syndrome, right? It's like you have all this power, and you're not the enemy that we need, but you're the enemy that we have, or something, shit like that. I completely fucked that up. Whatever it was, whatever that. You live long enough to become the bad guy, right?
Yeah,
it's kind of the deal.
Yeah,
it's like you grow to a point of too much power, too much influence, and there's a natural corruption of that cannot be withheld. It's going to happen when you have that much power, that much reach, and especially in his world, how much data he has about us.
Power is corruptive. It is addictive, and it is really hard to fight.
We're speaking from ignorance here because not like we would know, but we have inklings and feelings within our small environments and our small spheres of influence and understanding this idea. But it would be hard to be in his shoes and in his seat, Matt, because I wouldn't know what to do with all of it.
Yeah.
Like, what do you do with all this power, influence? I mean, he can literally snap his fingers and move markets. Like, he's done it, right? Especially in crypto.
And you mentioned it with like Zuckerberg. And I think Zuckerberg is I think he's trying to build his own reality, his own world, but he's just a business guy. You know, he caves to the masses. He caves to the government.
He's kind of a puppet.
Yeah. He just wants to build a business, and he's willing to say yes to a lot of things in order to achieve his goal of building bigger business. I don't think he's in the mindset of I need to change the world and change the universe as Elon does.
I would agree with you. And so if I were to nail you to the wall with one particular thing that you appreciate about Elon, it's the fact that he is an innovator. He is willing to do these outlandish things, shooting penis rockets. No, that's Bezos. Shooting rockets into the atmosphere, drilling the biggest holes in the earth humanly possible, making flamethrowers, connecting us to the internet. You know, he's thinking totally outside the box. Wants to send us to Mars. So if I can extrapolate from what you've just said, what you appreciate about Elon is that he's a man who's willing to go hard after his dreams. Is that fair?
Correct.
But there's a caveat to that because we don't know how much power this guy is going to end up with and if he's going to end up using it for good.
I think everyone's intention is I'm going to start with good.
He seems like if you were to go to I'm nerding out here for a second. If we were to go into like a Dungeons and Dragons, he would be like a chaotic good.
Okay.
Or like a chaotic neutral. Like he's out there and he's crazy, he's neutral, but that neutrality can be positive and negative. But at the end of the day, he doesn't see it that way. He's just doing what he's doing.
Correct.
Right?
I mean, it's the idea of, does Bill Gates really think he's doing evil in the world?
Oh, Bill Gates is chaotic bad.
But he probably believes that he's doing good. Right? In his soul, I think Bill Gates believes he's doing the right thing. Is he doing the right thing? From our perspective, no. I think he's fucking everyone up.
Bill Gates is chaotic evil, yeah, for sure.
But that's from our perspective. From his own, he probably truly believes what he's doing is right.
Well, yeah, because he's been propagandized by his parents. We're talking about Bill Gates here. He's been propagandized by his parents. His upbringing, Bill Gates. Did you know that Bill Gates' father was on the board of Planned Parenthood? Did you know that?
I did not
Look
know
that up, Will. Fact check it, baby. So Bill Gates' childhood, he was surrounded by people, his parents particularly, who were feeding him from a very young age population control and, let's just say, racial inequities. And so it does not surprise me whatsoever that Bill Gates is in the game of population control, food control, and industry control. Doesn't surprise me whatsoever because you and I both agree that you are the number one propagandizer of your child.
Yep.
She ain't gonna learn from the school system, the prison system, the indoctrination camps. Your daughter is gonna learn from Matt Kim.
Correct.
We agree.
If anyone's gonna indoctrinate my kid, it's gonna be me.
It's gonna be you. So if we take that same methodology and we say the only person that's ever gonna propagandize my son, Bill Gates, William Gates, is going to be his parents. Well, look at what his parents were into, and it might just tell you a lot about the man.
Interesting.
Yeah. So Bill Gates is definitely not one on your list of top 5 guys that didn't influence you.
No, I think he's a cuck.
Let's see. Will's bringing it up. Bill Gates' father, William Gates Sr., worked on the board of Planned Parenthood along with other charities. What's false is claims that the elder Gates supported the idea of eugenics appears to be nothing more than a wild assumption.
Of course, fact checkers, blah blah.
But you can't say that. Go scroll back up, Will. Scroll back up. The claims that the elder Gates supported the idea of eugenics appears to be nothing more than a wild assumption cannot be true when we have actual video evidence of Mr. Bill Gates himself saying stuff like, "We're just gonna jab these kids." And we're going to reduce the population by this much percentage. It's like you don't say stuff. First off, let me just bring it back to myself. I would never say that because that's not within my mental models. That's not something I care about. But if Bill Gates says that he's going to do population control, maybe, just maybe, he actually believes it. Anyway, I'm going off the rocker here.
So could a similar thing happen to Elon? He has so much power. He controls all the information.
Yeah.
Controls how we move, controls our next planet, controls the internet, controls the satellites. I mean, he could literally have control of everything.
So is Elon Musk the Antichrist?
I mean, I believe what he's doing is honest and good. That's what I get. That's my gut reaction of what I've seen of him and anything I've consumed of him. Again, I don't know him. I've never met him, but he's someone that I would consider probably the most influential person in our lifetime.
Well, it's time for you to have 13 kids like he does.
And I love his idea of trying to have more children because, depopulation is an issue and that we need to have more children to extend society. Love the idea that, he talks about, there's no lack of water. Actually, salination of water is extremely cheap and people choose not to do it. I love that he's willing to call that stuff out. I love that if he builds these Tesla, what do you call them, the power stations, or that he could power the whole country using clean energy, that he has these ideas that he's built and developed out. But what if he ends up being the bad guy? What if he turns? What if someone were,
he becomes the overlord?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you stop him?
I don't know.
He's not elected.
Oof.
You can't just remove him. He is who he is.
It's kind of like Bill Gates. He's an unelected guy who's making policy decisions.
Correct. And Bill Gates has his power because he controls everyone's computers.
Yeah, and he controls our food supply.
This guy controls maybe more.
He controls the matrix.
He controls information.
Yeah.
Which is arguably more important than just food.
And a greater currency, yeah.
Correct.
For sure.
So I love Elon. Preface all this by saying I love Elon currently.
But we have questions.
I think it's okay to be just a little bit concerned and careful.
Yeah, I think that's a good word.
Any one person can accumulate so much power amongst so many different facets of industry and is able to conglomerate it into just one person.
I'm just glad that we're willing to have the conversation about it, because this is not a small issue. I think people miss the larger narrative and the larger meta here. Like, Elon Musk truly has a shit ton of technological power and technological influence over our lives, and will continue to do so as he continues to grow. And I think it's valuable that we here at the Matt Kin Podcast are willing to talk about this and question it. We're not saying that he's a bad person outright. We don't know. We haven't met the person. We've just seen his ideas. We've seen them come to fruition. He's a man on a mission. We appreciate that model. Okay. And we appreciate that hustle for sure.
Agreed.
Similar to all the other, like Joe Rogan, Tucker Carlson, Andrew Tate. All of these people have worked ridiculously hard for what they have. And so I think that's the thing that we can extract the most out of this. And for those that are listening, is that a hard work ethic is a common denominator between all of these guys. And they've all been willing to step outside the box, step outside their comfort zone, be okay with criticism, which they get tons of. But yet at the same time, they're still stalwart. They're still consistent. They're still disciplined to exact their mission out in the world and have their impact on the world be made known. And I think that takes a lot of courage, and I can appreciate that a lot.
Be unapologetically yourself.
What else is there to say?
Thank you, everybody. See you next week. Have a good day. Thank you, Peter. Appreciate you, bud.
I feel like I need to...
Hey, we need to end one of these.
I need to talk like this. Is that that's the Andrew Tate, right?
Yeah, I think he does something like this.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So it's not fully like the Masonic, like Illuminati thing.
It feels kind of different. I've never tried it.
You know what we should do next podcast?
Just try.
We should just both sit like this.
Yeah, just like the entire time. See if you feel more powerful. Well, doing this, you also sit. You sit taller.
You sit straighter.
Yeah. Interesting.